Hi everybody, and welcome to my studio. It's a beautiful day again, so we're going to be painting outside. What I have in mind today is kind of an autumn scene with a trail going on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into some yellow ochre, just a little bit. And to the yellow ochre, I'm going to add some burnt sienna. A little more yellow ochre in that. And a touch of the alizarin crimson. So yellow ochre, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, just a little bit. And I'm going to start doing the X stroke. Be not mixed so well. If you find out you touch it and you get a big blotch of whatever color you added, just tap it to make it smooth. Don't worry about it. And I'm going to start doing the X stroke. Moving out kind of in a bit of a circle pattern. And if you want to be in the Museum of Modern Art, you stop right there. Next, I'm going to touch a little bit of sap green. Add it to the color we just had. So now we have yellow ochre, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, sap green. And I'm going to start from the corners now. Starting from the top, and I'm working my way in. This canvas has been prepared with liquid white, and so that's why the color is going to be fading as we move towards the center. And let's just finish coloring the whole canvas with that. And the last thing we're going to do is I'm just going to touch a little bit of white. Just a little bit. I'm going to go back into the center with my X stroke. I'm just going to fade out the center, make it a little bit brighter. Maybe this is where the trail is going to end up going. We don't know yet. These paintings have a habit of starting out with one idea and then completely changing by the time we're done. And I think that looks pretty smooth. There's no need to blend it too much. No need to use a clean brush, I think, to blend something like this. Then, with the same brush, I'm going to go back into the yellow ochre, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, the same color we started with. Tap the bristles to make sure it's super mixed up. And I'm just going to do a little push-up stroke to make some trees. When you paint trees this way, start from the bottom of the tree and work your way up, and that liquid white will start to absorb the paint, and the tree will be lighter at the top than it is on the bottom, the way trees really are. Because remember, the top of a tree is going to get all the light, the bottom of a tree isn't. Something like that. And that's going to be our first layer. Take a clean brush and start tapping out the bottom until it really disappears into nothing. You're just looking to diffuse the light. Go back into that same color we just had and start to add a little bit of burnt umber. And that's what's going to make it just a little bit darker. And start to add a few more these trees. This is just background stuff. Try not to kill that fuzzy area. That fuzzy area that you just did by tapping is going to help. It's going to help give you that distance and depth that you want in your painting. Let's just go up here, darken this whole corner. Dark corners are really what helps sort of brings your eye into the painting. And let's grab a fan brush. And into that same color, just burnt sienna, burnt umber. We're going to start to add some of our first evergreen trees. Here. Little push down strokes. Push, 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 push. Give him the friend. Reload. Maybe there's one over here. And maybe just one more guy lives over here. Let's do one more guy right there. Go back to that super clean brush and just tap the bottom out of this. The goal is really to just sort of build up a forest at this point. Just build up some background material, lots of different things. And let's keep working with the fan brush. Let's keep getting darker with our browns. So we have kind of an array, starting with the burnt sienna, the burnt umber, and then the darkest one, the Van Dyke brown, and even black over here. So that way we can keep getting darker and darker as we go through building this forest layer. And that's kind of important because in a landscape, the closer you sort of get, the darker it's going to get. So I'm going to start adding some bush kind of things. Just sort of, I guess you would say, almost scrubbing something in with the corner of my brush. Letting shapes kind of just happen. Again, trying not to destroy too much of the mist that we have. Maybe build it up just a little bit more over here. You can do little pushy things. And that'll give more of an impression of leaves. Yeah, why not do that? Got some stuff. Let's push up. You'll get leaves and bushes this way, kind of automatically. We're still working on the background, so there's not really a huge need to focus too much on anything. If there's a mistake, maybe I don't like that yellow, and in this case I do, but you can just go over it with something else. Let's add just a few more of those evergreen trees. They're really nice. And in nature, the evergreen trees are always a little bit darker, so I'm going to start to add some black. That evergreen tree lives there. Short one here, just in front of the other one. And maybe just one over here too. Yeah. Well, maybe not an evergreen tree. I kind of like that yellow bush that's going on there. So maybe this one's just, well, this is just an old tree. And he lost his leaves and he's old. And that way I have a tree there without messing up my little bush that was a happy accident. And let's add some color to this. And by color, I mean absolutely not really color. I want to add some birch trees. So I just dipped into some of my liquid white, just to thin my titanium white out a bit. Titanium white tends to be one of the thickest paints because you tend to use it first for clouds. So sometimes when you use it, you have to thin it out. And I'm just going to start adding some birch trees in the back. And because I have a lot of brown here, they're going to stand out really nicely. I like to think that painting on the patio is a bit of a peaceful show. Sometimes when I'm out here painting, I can hear the birds singing, and that really sort of helps me feel nice. Makes me feel closer to nature. Pay attention to places where you have opportunities for contrast. That black tree is really, really black. So wouldn't that just be a nice place for a really white tree to sort of come out, maybe in front? And that black tree's still there. We know he's there. One more. I really like these birch trees. One more. You never have too many. And we can take that clean brush that we have. We can soften some of the bottoms of these birch trees. Tap real gentle at this point. Like, you don't want to mess that up too much. You just don't want it to be a really hard edge. Right, just make it like they're growing out of something. And then let's tap the bottom of this guy out. Tap really hard, fade it into nothing. Right into nothing. Where you can't tell where this color and the color that we laid down at the beginning begins and ends. That's when you know you did a really good job with your tapping. I'm going to leave that alone. Those look like some bushes hanging now. With this kind of painting, it's important to know when to just sort of leave things alone. If something's nice, you leave it alone. If something's not so nice, maybe you make a change. Let's go back into some yellow ochre, some burnt sienna, the same color we started out with, a little bit of alizarin crimson, so we have those colors again, and we're going to add a teeny tiny little bit of green to that. Just a little bit of green. We're starting to get closer. We might be able to see some of the green in that foliage. And I'm just tapping the brush to make sure it's mixed relatively well for this. And let's add another layer. Little tappy grass. Just tappy grass. Build it up in any kind of place you think it might need to be built up. And fade out the bottom. Some of these might be getting a little bit of highlight at this point. So to make your highlight, go into some of the maybe alizarin crimson, a lot more of the green, still more green. And in this painting, you notice we're using a lot of browns. Well, we want to keep it that way. So we're going to add some alizarin crimson to that because green and red make brown. And just the sun's probably poking through mostly through here, so I'm just going to add just the least little bit of highlight to some of these guys. Just a teeny tiny bit, you don't need a lot. And let's start to add maybe another tree. Just one tree. One tree, maybe a little bit bigger. You don't want to interfere too much with your background stuff, so maybe this tree is just here. And just sort of tap him in. If you tap him, you'll get rough bark. You can give him a limb. Give him one limb here. Maybe one limb up there. Yeah. You can use that liner brush after you clean it. Go into that dark color. And just start adding some limbs to him. Branches are always just a little bit thicker, closer to the trunk of the tree. So push a little bit harder, then you kind of let go. and that's enough for him. Let's keep adding more layers to this. We're going to add another layer, so that's more ochre, burnt sienna, and green. A little bit more green this time. We're going to start adding more green the closer we get to us. And we'll start right over here. And now we have something that tree is sort of growing out of. Just those little push strokes. Same thing here. And maybe the bushes start to come up just a little bit more. There we go, just a little bit. One thing that you can do is if you're looking at it and you think you don't quite have enough power yet, and I think we do, but you could always mix up some darker color and then just paint over that and then add highlights to it. But I'm going to add even just one more layer. So I'm going to tap up some of the bottom here. Tap, 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 tap. And as I said, my idea for this painting from the beginning was a trail. And I'm starting to see where the trail is. You see here where it's a little bit lighter? The trail, in my mind, starts to go here and maybe it comes out front. So now's the part where I start to think about how to preserve that or how to emphasize that. So I'm going to take my 1-inch brush, dirty 1-inch brush. You don't have to clean too much, especially with the brown. It's going to eat up all your stuff. And I'm going to start adding this trail here. There we go. And that trail just sort of goes off into like nowhere. You know, you're going to lose it real quick, especially in the deep woods. And maybe the middle of that trail, I'm going to lighten up. Just lighten up the middle of it. Starting closer to you and then working up. Take a clean brush, just sort of blend it just a little bit. Horizontal strokes, basically. And what blending it's going to do is it's going to give us more of an ability to add paint over that by taking off the excess paint. And it's going to soften it up just a little bit. Okay. There's a tree here. I saw him. Dark colors. This tree is right here. There we go. He's pretty close to the trail. He wants to go for a walk, maybe. And he's got a little limb. Comes out like this. Go back to that liner brush, wherever it may be, down here. Add a little bit of paint thinner to your dark paint. And then add on some limbs. Thicker here, like I said, near the bottom, where it attaches on. Something like that. And there we go. You can start to see where that trail that we made is going. Let's go back to our 2-inch. And this time, I think I'm just going to use yellow ochre, sap green. I'm not going to really add too much brown. We're getting closer, really close now. I want to make things kind of vibrant. Actually, what I really need right now is I need a lot of power. So what I really want to do is I actually want to go into a clean brush. This 1-inch brush is clean. I'm going to go into some of that dark brown that I had. I'm going to add a whack of sap green to it and some crimson to make it darker. So I have black, Van Dyke brown, sap green, crimson, and I'm going to start adding dark guys. At this point, just bam, put it in. And remember, it's a trail. People are going to be walking there, so there's not going to be a whole lot of stuff. So you got to make sure that your bushes sort of slope towards this path that people are going to be using. And when I say power, all I really just mean is contrast. If you don't have any dark stuff, your white stuff isn't going to show up. It's not going to look real nice. Dark stuff. Real dark stuff here. And we're going to add one more tree. I'm going to touch a little bit of liquid white, go into titanium white, thicken up my liquid white with the titanium white until I get a nice consistency that I know is going to stick, which means just a little bit thinner, just a tiny bit thinner than all the other paint. Now, I like him. Actually, I like almost all these trees. But I'm still going to do it anyway. Let's go right here. Wow, that came out pretty nice. And then I'm going to go into my liner brush, clean it off. It's got a bunch of black on it. Go into some liquid white. Give him his arms. And then with my knife, I haven't used the knife at all today. That's really strange. I usually like to use it. I'm going to go into some of the dark colors, some of the black and the brown. Maybe a little white in there, make it kind of a marbly kind of thing. Marbly like that. There we go. Now a whole lot of color there. Do a small cut. And I'm going to start adding the texture to the tree. Sort of touch. And go. Maybe a little bit more white to that. That's almost too dark. That's an easy way to do a birch tree. And then let's add some highlight. Actually, down here, you see where that's just a little bit too thick? My highlight won't stick to that, so I'm just going to cut that off. And that doesn't matter too much if the edges of that got messed up, because you can always, especially when you do the highlight, go over that. So highlight these guys. Now I want to go into some Indian yellow, yellow ochre. Because this is fall, I don't want to really, I just maybe want to look at the green when I touch it. A little bit liquid white to thin it out, lighten the color. I'm going to start at the brightest place, which is going to be like down here maybe. I'm going to start highlighting individual bushes. There are individuals at this point. Even though we sort of put all the shapes on together, you gotta think real hard about where one bush begins and the other bush ends. Because if you don't do that, it's just gonna look like one big strange bush that really shouldn't exist. And just changing the color. So I do cad yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and red. Those are all kind of fall colors. Those are kind of colors that, you know, things actually are in nature, especially around autumn. And if you go into those and keep them kind of close together, you're going to start to get actual realistic kind of colors, and you can separate your bushes out. Sometimes you can go into liquid white, sap green, because not all of these would have changed their colors yet. Sort of let that get darker, especially towards the outer edge. And that's one of the nice things about a 2-inch brush. A lot of people are afraid to use a 2-inch brush. A 2-inch brush is really 2 brushes, this side and this side. You can use it for a lot of different things. Don't be afraid of it. There we go. Highlight here. I'm going to get into my yellows again. Highlight over that nasty spot on that bush. There's one more. There's one more tree. When you paint like this, the trick to painting like this is learning how to do the different features you want, and then as you paint, see where they belong. There's a birch tree here. Not a big one, but he's there. And if he wasn't there, this would not be the same painting. That's about as much damage as I can do around here. I'm going to sign this one. To sign, I like to use bright red, and you can use any color you want, but you got to thin it out using the brush cleaner that you have until it's really, really thin. Super, super thin. And then sign your name. My name is really simple. Thank the Lord it is, because I am not good at doing my signature. I can do about 3 letters. There we go. Thank you very much for watching the episode today. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you around. Bye.